A mob boss punched Sammy Davis Jr. on stage in front of 3,000 people. The sound echoed through the showroom like a gunshot. Blood sprayed from Sammy's lip. The greatest entertainer in Las Vegas crumpled to the floor while a drunk gangster stood over him, fists clenched, ready to hit him again. And then Dean Martin did something that changed Vegas forever. There are stories that become legends in Las Vegas. Stories passed down from cocktail waitresses to casino dealers, from showroom managers to security guards. Stories that capture something so true about the city's soul that it doesn't matter if every detail is exactly accurate. They reveal deeper truths about power, friendship, and what it costs to stand up for dignity in America's playground. Everyone who saw what Dean Martin did tonight got a very good idea of what he's really like. I'm sure you'll be shocked when you see this. Before we continue, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. March 8, 1964. The Sands Hotel Copa Room was packed with 3,000 people watching Sammy Davis Jr. do what he did better than almost anyone alive: sing, dance, and make everyone forget their troubles. The air was thick with cigar smoke and expensive perfume. Women wore sequined gowns that caught the spotlight like scattered diamonds. Men in sharp tuxedos sipped scotch and champagne from crystal glasses. The band, 12 pieces, all virtuosos, provided the perfect backdrop to Sammy's voice, that incredible instrument that could shift from velvet smooth to razor sharp. Sammy was 45 minutes into his set, right in the middle of his famous Frank Sinatra impression. "Ring-a-ding-ding, baby," he crooned, capturing Frank's swagger so perfectly that half the audience doubled over with laughter. This was Sammy at the absolute peak of his powers. At 38, he'd survived a car accident that cost him his left eye, converted to Judaism, married Mae Britt despite death threats, and clawed his way to the top of an industry that didn't want him there. He could sing, dance, act, do impressions, play multiple instruments, and perform magic tricks that made professional magicians shake their heads. But talent wasn't enough in 1964 America. Sammy was also a black man performing in a city where he wasn't allowed to stay in the hotels where his name appeared on the marquee. He used service elevators and ate in kitchens. The humiliation was constant, grinding, soul-crushing. Still, Sammy had protection. The Rat Pack. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop had made it clear that Sammy was their brother, and anyone who messed with him would answer to all of them. 20 feet away in his dressing room, Dean Martin was having a quiet drink between shows, completely unaware his life was about to change. Dean was dressed casually, white shirt open at the collar, black slacks. His dark hair was perfectly styled, but his guard was down. He was sipping apple juice from a Scotch glass, his usual trick. The public thought he was always drunk, but that was just the act. The split with Jerry Lewis 6 years earlier still haunted him. Dean woke up some mornings convinced he'd be exposed as a fraud. His mother's death when he was young had left a wound that never healed. But Angela Crocetti had taught him lessons that stuck. Dignity mattered more than money. Kindness was strength. You stood by the people you loved, no matter the cost. Dean had plans to surprise Sammy after the show. They'd grab dinner at their favorite Italian place, maybe hit some blackjack tables. Just two friends enjoying their Friday night. Everything was going perfectly. Sammy's show was killing. The audience was mesmerized. Las Vegas felt like the center of the universe. This was Dean Martin at his absolute best. The cool, the charm, the effortless talent that made him a legend. But what you're about to witness isn't about the performance. It's about the man behind the microphone, the man who valued dignity over safety, loyalty over career. If you've ever wondered what real courage looks like when everything is on the line, stay with this story. Drop a like if you're ready to see Dean Martin at his most fearless. Because in 30 seconds, someone was going to test him in a way that would change Las Vegas forever. Angelo Martinelli walked into the Copa Room like he owned it. In a very real sense, he did. Connected to one of the major East Coast crime families, Angelo had significant interests in several Las Vegas casinos, including the Sands. He was 52 years old, thick-necked, with slicked-back gray hair and dead eyes that had seen too much violence to register normal human emotion. Angelo's mother had died when he was 12, leaving him with a father who beat him daily and taught him that power was the only thing that mattered. By 16, Angelo was running numbers. By 25, he'd killed his first man. By 50, he'd stopped counting. He was already drunk when he arrived, flanked by 3 associates who moved with casual menace. Angelo's face was flushed red, his expensive suit rumpled, his tie loosened. He'd been drinking since noon, stewing over something that happened 3 days earlier. On March 5th, Sammy had made a joke during his show. Nothing specific, just a general mob joke about my friends in the hospitality industry who make offers you can't refuse. The audience roared with laughter. But Angelo had been in the audience that night, and he hadn't laughed. For 3 days, he'd been getting progressively angrier, working himself into a rage about respect and boundaries. Angelo had a particular hatred for entertainers who made jokes about organized crime. He interpreted any mob-related humor as personal disrespect. In Angelo's world, there were only 2 types of people: those who had power and those who served. Sammy Davis Jr., in Angelo's diseased thinking, was someone who served, someone who should be grateful, keep his mouth shut, smile, and never forget who allowed him to exist in this city. The fact that Sammy was black made it worse in Angelo's twisted worldview. Angelo had grown up where racism was enforced with violence. Now, watching Sammy on stage, confident, talented, beloved by 3,000 people, Angelo felt something dark rising in his chest. Angelo's table was in the 3rd row, center. He'd been loud and belligerent since arriving, making crude comments. But nobody dared complain. You didn't complain about mob bosses in 1964 Vegas, not if you valued your health. People at nearby tables noticed his aggressive behavior. A young couple from Michigan exchanged worried glances. A businessman from Chicago quietly signaled for his check. But nobody said anything. Nobody intervened. That was how power worked in Las Vegas. Silence was survival. Sammy was mid-impression when Angelo stood up abruptly. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. For a moment, the audience thought it might be part of the show. Angelo walked toward the stage with the swagger of a man who'd never been told no. Then they saw Sammy's face, the confusion, the fear, the sudden understanding that this was not planned. Angelo climbed the stage stairs and walked directly into Sammy's spotlight. The band faltered. One by one, the musicians stopped playing as they realized something was very wrong. Sammy took a step back, his smile freezing on his face. He knew who Angelo was. Everyone in Vegas knew. "You think you're funny, Sammy?" Angelo's voice boomed through the showroom. "You think you can make jokes about me and my associates?" Sammy's mind raced, trying to figure out how to defuse this. "Angelo, I wasn't talking about you specifically. 3 nights ago, you made a mob joke. I was sitting right there. I heard every word." The band had stopped completely. The showroom was dead silent except for Angelo's escalating rage. Sammy raised his hands, trying to calm the situation. "Angelo, listen, it was just a joke. I make jokes about everyone. Frank, Dean, myself, politicians, everyone's fair game." Angelo stepped closer, his alcohol breath visible in the bright lights. "You're not their equal, Sammy. You're not Frank. You're not Dean. You're a—" And then Angelo used the word, the N-word, loud and clear in front of 3,000 shocked witnesses. The atmosphere changed instantly. Every person felt the weight of that word, the ugliness of it, the way it cut through the air like a blade. This wasn't about show business anymore. This was about something much deeper and more dangerous. Don't ever call me that, Sammy said quietly, but his voice carried with unmistakable authority. Angelo stepped closer. Or what? What exactly are you going to do? You think your Rat Pack friends protect you when they're not here? Right now, it's just you and me, boy. Sammy knew Angelo's reputation, the stories about people who crossed him and disappeared. But he also knew he couldn't just accept this abuse. Not in front of 3,000 people. Not on his own stage. Not when everything he'd worked for was at stake. I'm asking you respectfully to leave my stage, Sammy said, his voice shaking but firm. Angelo laughed, a cold, cruel sound. Asking respectfully? You don't ask me to do anything, boy. And then Angelo punched him. A hard right hook directly to Sammy's face. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Sammy stumbled backward and fell hard onto the stage. His good eye teared up from pain, rage, and humiliation. Blood trickled from his split lip. Angelo stood over him like a predator. Get up so I can hit you again. The room went silent. 3,000 people frozen in absolute horror. Security guards stood helplessly at the back. You don't arrest a mob boss. You don't even approach a mob boss in a rage. Sammy was on the floor, trying to decide what to do. If he stood up, Angelo would hit him again. If he didn't, he'd be humiliated forever. In his dressing room, Dean Martin heard that gasp from 3,000 people. In show business, you learn what audience sounds mean. Laughter means the joke landed. Applause means they're happy. But a collective gasp, that means something terrible just happened. Dean opened his door. He could hear voices from the stage. Sammy's voice, scared and shaken. Then another voice, angry and slurred. And then he heard that racial slur cut through the air. Dean's jaw tightened. Without hesitation, he started walking toward the stage. A young stagehand named Tommy grabbed his arm desperately. Dean, don't. That's Angelo Martinelli. I know exactly who he is. Dean, he's killed people, multiple people. He'll kill you. Dean pulled his arm away. Sammy is my friend. Dean, please think about this. Dean looked at Tommy with those cool blue eyes, absolutely certain. If he kills me for protecting my friend, then he kills me. Some things are worth dying for. Dean pushed through the curtain and walked onto that stage. Dean didn't run, didn't yell, didn't make a dramatic entrance. He just walked calmly onto that stage, his voice cutting through the silence. Get your hands off my friend. Angelo turned, his face breaking into a cruel smile. Dean Martin. How perfect. Maybe you can teach your friend here about respect and knowing his place. Dean kept walking until he was standing directly between Angelo and Sammy, creating a human shield. Sammy, you okay? Sammy nodded, wiping blood from his mouth. I'm okay, Dean, but you should go. This isn't your fight. Dean ignored him. He looked at Angelo with eyes that showed nothing except cold steel. You need to leave now. Angelo laughed. Or what, Dean? Are you going to sing me off this stage? Dean's voice remained dangerously calm. I'm asking you once, politely. Leave this stage, leave this showroom. Don't come back. You're asking me? Angelo's voice rose with disbelief. You work for us, Dean. This casino, we own it. Every brick, every slot machine, every showroom. You perform here because we allow it. So maybe you should leave. Dean took a step closer. They were face to face now. I don't work for anyone. I work with people I respect. And you just assaulted my friend in front of 3,000 witnesses. So here's what's going to happen. Dean's voice never wavered. You're going to walk off this stage right now, or I'm going to make sure every performer in this city knows exactly what kind of man you are. And good luck filling showrooms when nobody wants to work for you. Angelo's smile faded. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you a choice. Walk away now with whatever dignity you have left, or lose every headline act in Vegas. Your choice. Dean's calm was unnerving. He wasn't bluffing. He was simply stating facts with the certainty of a man who had decided some things were worth dying for. "My mother taught me something," Dean said softly. "She said that real power isn't making people afraid of you. Real power is being kind when you could be cruel. What you did tonight? That's not power, Angelo. That's just weakness wearing a tough mask." The words hung in the air. Now, here's the question historians still debate. Was Dean Martin recklessly brave, or did he calculate that public humiliation was the mob's one weakness? Did he know even crime bosses can't afford to look weak in front of crowds, or was this pure moral courage with no strategy? Let us know what you think in the comments. Was this calculated brilliance or fearless loyalty? Either way, Angelo Martinelli had a choice to make. Angelo looked around the showroom slowly. 3,000 pairs of eyes watching him, watching Dean, waiting to see who would blink first. His 3 associates had stood up, hands moving toward their jackets, waiting for a signal. One word from Angelo, and this could turn into bloodshed. But Dean didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't show even a flicker of fear. He just stood there, perfectly calm, staring down a man who'd killed people for less. The silence stretched on. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Finally, incredibly, Angelo took a step backward. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life, Dean." "Maybe," Dean said without moving. "But Sammy is my friend, my brother. So if protecting him is a mistake, I'll make that mistake every single time." Angelo looked down at Sammy. "This isn't over between us." "Yes, it is," Dean said with absolute certainty. "Security, please escort Mr. Martinelli out immediately." 2 security guards finally moved, approaching Angelo carefully. Angelo shrugged them off. "I don't need an escort. I'll walk myself out." He looked at Dean one more time, then walked off that stage, his associates following. The showroom remained silent until Angelo was gone. Then, slowly, applause started. 1 person, then 10, then 100. Within seconds, all 3,000 people were on their feet, giving Dean Martin the loudest, longest, most emotional standing ovation of his career. People were crying. Men who'd fought in World War II had tears streaming down their faces. Dean helped Sammy to his feet. "You okay, pal?" Sammy's eye filled with tears. "You didn't have to do that, Dean. He's going to come after you." Dean shrugged. "Let him try. You're my brother, Sammy. Nobody touches you. Not while I'm breathing." The ovation continued, getting louder. Dean walked to the microphone and looked out at 3,000 people. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for that interruption, but I want to make something absolutely clear. Sammy Davis Jr. is one of the greatest entertainers who has ever lived. He's also one of the finest men I have ever known. And if anyone at all, has a problem with him, they will answer to me personally." The applause got even louder. Dean handed the microphone to Sammy. Sammy took it, still wiping blood from his lip, but his voice was strong. "Thank you, Dean. And thank you all for being here tonight. You know what they say in show business. The show must go on." He turned to the band. "Gentlemen, let's take it from Mr. Bojangles." The band started playing. Sammy started singing. And Dean Martin walked off that stage to thunderous applause without performing a single note. Years later, when Dean Martin died on Christmas Day, 1995, his obituaries celebrated the music, the movies, the Rat Pack legend. But the stories that mattered most, the moments when Dean stood up for dignity when it cost him everything, those stories lived on in the memories of people who understood what real character looks like. Sammy Davis Jr., before his own death in 1990, was asked countless times about his friendship with the Rat Pack. He always said the same thing. "Frank was our leader. He brought us together and made the Rat Pack possible. But Dean was the one who would literally die for you. He proved that to me over and over again." According to Vegas legend, the aftermath came swiftly. Within hours, word had spread through every casino in Las Vegas. Dean Martin had stood up to Angelo Martinelli, had humiliated him in front of 3,000 witnesses, had forced him to back down. Senior mob figures, embarrassed by Angelo's public spectacle, quietly told Dean that both he and Sammy were under permanent protection. Angelo had been too public, too violent, too stupid. He'd made the organization look like animals instead of businessmen. But stories like this one, the moments when someone chose courage over comfort, loyalty over safety, dignity over power, these are the stories that keep Dean Martin's legacy alive today. If this moved you, hit that like button and subscribe, because there are dozens more untold Dean Martin stories about real character and genuine courage that deserve to be remembered. And this legacy? It lives on in everyone who chooses to stand up when it's easier to look away. Dean Martin carried his mother's words with him his entire life. Real strength is being kind when you could be cruel. On March 8, 1964, he showed the world what that looked like when the stakes were life and death. That's not just Dean's legacy. That's a challenge for all of us.